it's like, oh, I need to look like this in order for me to be enough. But like, I don't think you can ever get there.
Hello and welcome to Walk the Talk. My name is Kumbi and I'm here with my co-host Violet.
Hello.
And Portia.
Hi.
All right, today we're talking about something that's a little controversial. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this, but a woman walks into the room and other women kind of just start sizing her up, and it just, before you know it, you can kind of get the sense that there's some competition going on. What is your view in terms of competition among women? What is your view in terms of just comparisons that we make to each other? What's the root of competition?
I think that we just innately have a competition type spirit in general. Mm-hmm. I think that a lot of times you just want to be the best. It's been ingrained in us through society, like, I want to be the best. Mm-hmm. And so when you have other women, we're already on the same playing field. We're already all women. So you want to have that edge above. Mm-hmm. And so even without realizing it, you are looking at their hair, you're looking at their clothes, you're looking at their shoes, and you're like, oh, my shoes are a little bit more expensive. Like my hair looks a little bit better. And they may very well be like your friend, somebody who you're close to, but you still want to have that little bit of edge to make it seem like I'm a little bit better than they are. And, I don't think that a lot of times it's evil intentions. It's just that you want to be the best. We've been taught to be the best, and that's what you want. So
I think if you think in terms of a job, for instance, there are only so many high-level positions, at a particular job, and you want to be one of the people that's, in those positions. If you're thinking from a worldly perspective, a lot of times you'll be striving and doing it the way of the world, stepping on people's, to get to that point. And even just as women, sometimes even in the workforce, there are limited opportunities for women. So you might feel like, you want to be that woman, the token woman who's in that high level position. And so you have to step on all these other women to get there. And you have to, compete with all these other women to get there.
Obviously, if somebody walks in and wrong, I'm going to look. But like the first thing I'm looking for, I'm not looking like, I'll notice like, oh my, I like the shoes. Because I love shoes. Like, okay, I like those shoes. Like, okay, fine. They look good. Like, okay, whatever, the hair is well done, whatever. I'll look at those things. But to me, I'm looking like, okay, fine, it looks good. Or something, I'll be like, oh, I wish she wasn't wearing the sweater. I think that outfit will look nice without the sweater on. Okay. That's what I'm just thinking.
You're not hating when you do that.
I'm just being a fashion police at that point. I'm looking as a fashion police most of the time, like, all right, fine, I wish she was wearing XYZ. That's what I'm thinking mentally. Like, I'm just being a fashion police at that particular moment.
Anytime that you're in a situation where you're comparing yourself to anybody else, then that shows that you're probably in competition with that person. Say, for instance, the person at your job, right? So she comes in with this nice skirt and shirt, and you look at her and you're like, I got to go shopping because I got to be able to beat her next week. You're competing with her. If your husband bought you this new bracelet and your friend's husband comes along and buy her this diamond necklace, and now you got to go make your husband buy you something new, you're competing with that woman.
Portia mentioned something. She said, innately we have that thing where it's like we want to be the best, right? Inherently in the term the best, the best, better than who? You understand? Yeah. So that automatically puts you in a situation mentally where, you want to be better than the next person, So if it's not the best version of yourself and it's like better than somebody else, then automatically there's a competition that comes out of that.
I don't think competition is wrong. There's nothing wrong with competition. Like, to me, if somebody walks in the room, like, they're wearing a nice dress, they're wearing nice shoes, if I see those things, like, what's there for me to compete about? Like, you can appreciate, like, I like what she's wearing. That's not a competition. That's me appreciating. Like, I find she looks nice. But even for me to say that, like, oh, I wish she was wearing XYZ, I don't think that's a competition. That's just...
Absolutely not. If you tend to be just hypercritical of other women, much more critical than you are complimenting, then you are, celebratory of them. I think that's usually a sign that, you're in competition with other women. You feel threatened by the success or anything good, happening with other women. So I think that is important to identify, and it's something that with myself I realized that, okay, you know what, why am I being so hypercritical about this person? I'm threatened by something that's good about them, or that's, that I admire in them. I'm actually threatened by that, and that's why I'm so hypercritical. It's not necessarily that, there's much to criticize there. It's just it makes me feel a little bit better to say, that they don't measure up in this way or that way, because I feel like I don't measure up to them. Okay. When I was younger, in the community that we lived in, there was a beautiful girl. She was just the girl that all the guys liked. Uh-huh. She had hair, I didn't. she had nice skin, I didn't. I grew up with all kinds of mess on my skin. So I automatically, when I looked at her, I saw all the things that I didn't have.
Oh, I see.
And the guys weren't coming after me like that. They were coming after her, and even the guys that I liked her. So automatically, in my mind, I had some kind of envy towards her.
Okay.
So not necessarily like I wanted anything evil to happen to her, but as a kid, I'm like, I want to be the one that the guys are coming after.
I see.
Yeah. So there was some level of comparing myself to her.
Okay.
And I don't think that that's godly, and I don't think that that's good or anything. I don't think that's positive.
Yeah.
And that stems from a place of feeling like there's something that's not okay in you.
Yeah.
That we talked about inadequacies before. So beyond even inadequacies, but like feeling discontent with yourself.
Yeah.
And so looking at that someone else and saying they have that.
Yeah.
That thing that I want, and then kind of battling with them in your heart.
Really, the competition kind of boils down to jealousy. So you're jealous of that person. You can't really be in close, intimate relationship because you secretly are competing with them. So, and if you don't address that issue, then it can come to a place where it's more like, I don't even like this person. And so why don't you like this person? It all boiled down to the fact that you were in competition with them and you never addressed it. And now you have no good reason. I've had plenty of women, I've even said, it's just something about them that I just don't like. But what is that something? Like, if you cannot legitimately place what that something is, then it's probably because you're a little bit jealous of them. And I've done that. Like, I'm like, it's just something about her I just don't like. The person's not done anything to me. Nothing. And it's probably because I was in competition. I was a little bit jealous. She had something that I was lacking.
Kind of like what she says, you're competing, unbeknownst to you, you're in a competition. Because we've put up this standard, like, okay, you know what, to be beautiful, you have to be light skinned. So just because your skin is darker, automatically in your head be like, oh, I find I'm not beautiful. In order for me to be beautiful, I need to make my skin lighter. So everybody's into bleaching. Now it's normal. Like, I know people who were dark. Right now, you wouldn't even tell that's the same person. You know what I'm saying? Like, what made you do that thing? You see what I'm saying? Like, unbeknownst to you, I think it will definitely stem out of you not feeling inadequate. You're always like, oh, I need to look like this in order for me to be enough. But I don't think you can ever get there, because there's always gonna be somebody who's better than you, regardless of whatever the situation.
And I think
that's so hard.
When she said the root of it, it all boils down to comparison. You're comparing yourself to somebody else, and you're discontent with certain areas. And so when you compare yourself, you find your inadequacies, you find everywhere that you fall short, and you wonder how this other person is able to execute this, or how do they go about getting to the point that they're at. And so after you compare yourself and you realize that you fall short, then that kind of competition comes in, where you kind of like, well, what can I do to make myself get to that point? Not only to that point, but exceed that point. So I think if we actually get down to it, and I think from the conversation that we're having, it sounds like once you start comparing yourself, it builds the road for you to then start to be competitive towards other women.
I think there's this natural inclination. I think societal effects definitely have an impact, but I think there's a natural inclination where we feel like, we have limited resources. How do you say it in America? Resources. When people feel like they have limited resources, then they feel like they have to strive to one up or be better than the other person so that they can get those limited resources, i.e. men. Hey, I need to be the one that, this dude is checking for because there's so many options, So I think that can put us in competition mode.
And
I
so too. Yeah.
I think so. So I think part of it also is an issue of identity.
Yes.
I think if you're sure of who you are,
yes,
then
100%.
you're less likely to look at the next person and
Yes.
say, be in kind of any kind of competition with them, because you're content in who you are. You're clear of who you are, So I think it's tied to relationship with the Lord. I think it's tied to, just being clear on who God calls you as a person. Because when that's settled, then you don't have to, I want to be like this person, and I want to be like that person. Oh, I want to have what she has, and I want to, all those things don't mean as much.
Yes.
You start to enjoy who God has called you to be and grow in that, as opposed to, and then you can celebrate the next person and not feel like, I need to be in strife with her over this, Yeah,
I think that's so true. I think like it's so hard to get there, because especially when you're young, it's normal for you to be in a competition with other people. So before you know it, now you're an adult, you're doing the same things, but you're doing it quietly. You're doing it quietly,
We need to just think about these things. I think a lot of times we just play them off and we say, well, it's not that I'm in competition, or I'm not jealous of that person. It's just, there's just not my person to be around, or I just, feel this way about this and I feel this way about that. But honestly, if you cannot point to a legitimate reason that somebody has done something to you, then there's an issue within you. You need to be able to, to just figure out, ask yourself, what's the problem?
I think when you find it difficult to just clap for another woman or just kind of celebrate her, and I'm not just talking about on the outside where everybody can see it, but inwardly in your heart, I think that's likely a sign that you're in competition with her.
My situations are found I'll blame God. It'll be oh, I find how come I don't have this? Then my blame will be to God, okay, how come God you gave this person this situation, or you gave this person this situation? To me, my my truest example in this situation, to me, if I see something okay, this person has this particular thing, I know in myself there's no way I can get that, I can achieve that. It doesn't bother me at all, because I know there's no way I can afford that. There's no way I can do that. Right. So it doesn't bother me if that particular person has that thing or not. So that won't, it doesn't do anything to me. But I remember there was a time just wow, everybody around me is having babies, but my issue was with God, okay, God, how come you don't give me babies? Everybody around me is having babies. I'll have friends, they'll be so open about they'll be having abortions left and right. I'll be God, how come this person is gonna go kill this baby? Why don't you give me the babies? So but to me, I wasn't blaming the people around me, but I was blaming God. In my culture, once you get married, everybody is expecting you to have babies. So if a year goes by not having babies, you become the talk of the town. So it's in everybody else's mindset, okay, you get married, you're gonna have kids, but who says that? Who says that everybody is going to have kids? Some people are not going to have kids, and that's fine, because it's not people are walking into a grocery store and grab babies from there. Babies are a blessing from God, but when people don't have kids, people look at the people oh, it's their fault, and everybody, people will just be talking about you, and that's why everybody else is talking about you, and that puts pressure on people, and people go do other stuff just so they shouldn't be the talk of the town, and that's what the society.
Yeah, and if you don't, I feel in a situation like that, if you don't guard your heart, that can lead to comparisons, because because there's so much pressure on you that this is supposed to be happening by now. If it's not happening, then you're looking at the person that it's happening for, and you're saying, why is it not happening for me? Societal pressure can definitely make a difference. But I think the honor still boils down to us in terms of guarding our hearts.
Those exterior pressures just become internalized, and then they manifest themselves in different ways, and one of those ways can really be competition. And you'll find yourself, it may not be for everybody, but some people will go to extreme measures just for that validation.
So you will be tempted in one or the other. Like, you start thinking like, okay, it's up to me to get thing, to have this thing. And if it's not happening, you start thinking it's up to you, but it's up to God.
God is a God who searches the heart. If we have some mess in our hearts, no matter how petty it seems to us, like our hearts matter a great deal to God. So if we find some mess in there where it's essential that we deal with that and we not sweep it under the rug or try to mask it with this false idea of confidence. So I think it's important when we just in terms of evaluating ourselves, scripture says examine yourself to see if you're in the faith. It's essential that we are looking at our hearts and we're bringing issues that we find there before God, and we're not sweeping them under the rug under a guise of confidence or some other form of self-exaltation, and we're actually saying, okay, you know what, this is here and it's not good, it's not pleasing to God, so we need to deal with it.
I think that's the whole point when it comes, you have to have a form of, we're in the world, but we're not of the world.
Yes.
Because, you can easily be drawn in, like culture, society, any kind of environment, work, home, church, you are just so vulnerable to their opinions, to what they put out in front of you, and you want to conform to those because you want to be accepted. And so we have to learn to balance, like, yes, I'm in the world, but I'm not of the world, and how to separate that so that we aren't in a place of always constantly comparing and in competition with others. So if we can get to a point where we can distinguish those things, then I think we will have less of what we see a lot of today.
And I think just understanding that your identity is not tied to those things.
Yes.
Because a lot of times we tie identity to how we look.
Yes.
We tie identity to how we, I don't know what kind of jobs we have. What our family looks like. Things like that. We put so much into those things. We use those things to define us. Whereas Scripture doesn't tell us that that's how we are defined. God defines us Himself. And He calls us the apple of His eye. If we understand who we are before God, what He thinks of us, how precious we are to Him, then I think instead of looking at my sister, as a threat to me, I can actually look at her and glorify God, even in looking at her, appreciating the things that are in her, that God did, and God, that God designed that. So why am I envious of it? Like my father did that, so it's not going to be a thing of, why does she have this and why does she have that? No, my father in his heart, out of his bounty, decided to give this to her. So I need to be worshiping Him for that, not fighting Him about why is it not me? You know what I'm saying?
Challenge for you ladies this week is to really search your mind and think about any woman, any person that you've been in competition with. Maybe that person knew about it or maybe not, but just really search yourself. Think about all the topics that we've talked about throughout this episode, and just really search yourself to think, has there been a woman that I have been in competition with? And we encourage you to actually write it down and to pray about it and ask God to really just heal you from that. Ask God to really open up your eyes to see what the root of that was, and just confess it before God. I just want you to really just explore what it was that made you feel like you had to be in competition with that person. What was the root of it? And just ask God to cleanse you of that. Just go before His throne and just ask Him, like, God, forgive me for this, and what can I learn from this, and how can I keep this from happening again? And we encourage you to comment in the comment box below and let us know how this went for you. If you want to share your experience with us and you want to record it, then send us an email at WalktheTalkshow@gmail.com, and we will be more than happy to celebrate with you. We can pray for you on this issue. We can, maybe even give you a shout out in the box below. We don't have to. You can just let us know. But we just really like to celebrate with you and just really know that this is something that you can relate to and that you're actually benefiting from it. So please don't hesitate hesitate to contact us. And all you guys who are watching and listening, please like, subscribe, and share, comment, and we look forward to seeing you in our next episode.
We talk about the big sins, like, okay, you feel, you're caught in pornography, you're caught overresting, or these people are going through divorce, this person is going through depression, all these other kinds of things. But like these subtle things that happen like inside our heart, we sweep those things under the rags.
They know all the things that you don't want other people to know about you, and they're just blunt with it, and they just say it.
So I thought my sadness was attached to not having these things, and I've learned, and I want to encourage anyone who's feeling like I need this thing in order to be okay, that part of what God has taught me is that actually, even with these things, what I actually really need is Him.